direction. Give me some direction. Able minds are working, open hearts are learning. Give me some direction.
Dynamics of functional breathing in the sphenoid-basilar junction. In BodyTalk, we explore breathing from a yogic perspective, using the cell as a starting point. The cell teaches us about yoga. Any impairment to a cell's ability to let nutrients in or out results in death by starvation or toxicity of a cell. The two yogic concepts that relate to this cell activity are prana and apana, the two concepts that relate to the structural properties of the membrane that supports function are sithra and sukha. The Sanskrit term for prana means to breathe and to live. Prana is both what nourishes a living thing and the action that brings the nourishment in. It's also a universal term meaning the manifestation of all creative life force. All living systems require a balance of forces. Apana is the binary that functions with prana. Apana is the byproduct as well as the act of elimination. Prana and apana are the essential functions of life on all levels from cell to organism. In a cell and in all living things, the principle that balances permeability is stability. The yogic terms that reflect these polarities are sithra and sukha. The cell's membrane must balance containment with permeability. This is how life avoids destruction through starvation or toxicity and through implosion or explosion. Prana and apana must have a functional relationship in the body. To function, the body's pathways must be clear of obstructing forces. In yogic terms, our bodies must be in a state of sukha, or good space. Bad space is called dukkha. It is generally translated as suffering, uneasy, or difficult. When we make more sukha, our pranic forces flow freely and restore optimal function in the body-mind complex. Pranayama refers to a process that unrestrains the breath. Pra translates to first, na translates to energy, and yama translates to control. This is why Patanjali's definition of Kriya Yoga so beautifully links the idea that the breath is our best, most intimately available teacher of the deepest principles of yoga. The practice of restraining the breath releases bodily tensions that obstruct the expression of our system's intrinsic equilibrium. And because BodyTalk is rooted in two of the 6 Hindu philosophies, pranayama is a major part of sessions in the BodyTalk protocol. One place where prana and breathing can be a priority to balance is in the sphenoid-basilar junction, or SB, the sphenoid bone. It's a junction of the sphenoid bone and the basilar portion of the occipital bone at the base of the skull. In the craniosacral complex, made up of the skull and spine, one side is the tailbone and the other is the SB junction. When functional, this bone flexes and moves. The yellow portion right here is the sphenoid basilar junction, and you can see that when we are breathing in and out, that all these different parts of the skull are actually moving and flexing. They're not stationary and staying in one place. The skull has very complex patterns of movement, and there are at least 2 different rhythms to which the skull moves that we're going to focus on. One is the breathing cycle, and the other is the cranial pulse. These rhythms act to expand the cranial bones and then return them to their resting state. When we breathe in front of the sphenoid bone, this pressure subtly rotates this bone forward while indirectly rotating the base of the occipital bone upward. This movement opens the SB junction and allows for functional inhalation and prana to nourish the vital and physical body. When we breathe out, the pressure is released and the sphenoid and occipital bone return to their resting position. The SB junction closes, which allows for proper exhalation. This very small movement also affects the circulation of cerebral spinal fluid. The sphenoid bone articulates directly or indirectly with all other cranial bones. The movement of the cranial bones forms the craniosacral pulse rhythm. This pulse pumps cerebral spinal fluid around the brain and the spinal cord, delivering nutrients, removing waste, and modulating the neuroimmune system. Every bone is connected to every other bone in the body through the body's communication system. Deep breathing equals a deep life, and a deep life equals a deep breath. Shallow breathing can equal a shallow life. A shallow life can contribute to shallow breathing. There is no life without breath. To half breathe is to half live. The function of the pituitary gland is subject to the function of the SB joint in our skull, and the pituitary communicates and links with so many other systems in the body-mind complex. The pituitary gland sits in the sella turcica of the sphenoid bone and is regarded as the master gland of the endocrine system.
I'm going to go into the skull here. And the sella turcica is right there in the middle. It's right there at the tip of the pencil. The red here shows you where the carotid comes in and loops around. And you can see then that the sella turcica is directly behind the eye socket, straight back through and just in front of the temple. And those lines would intersect at your sella turcica. Now I've removed the top of the skull and we're going to zoom down into the sella. This area here. This hole and this hole over here where the optic nerves go through to the eyes. My finger fits down into the sella, so the pituitary is not much bigger than my index finger. And here's the sella.
The movement of the sphenoid bone contributes to the circulation of fluids and hormones within the pituitary. Our depth and awareness of breathing influences and determines the function and health of our body-mind complex, and thus our perception of life. This circulation assists hormones produced by the pituitary to be transported into the blood supply and distributed throughout the body. These hormones control growth, blood pressure, certain functions of the sex organs, thyroid gland, and metabolism, certain aspects of pregnancy, childbirth, nursing, temperature regulation, pain relief, and so much more. Here's one of the BodyTalk protocol charts. It's an integral map of our body-mind complex, and this map allows our body to choose its destinations based on its priorities in a session. If your body brings us to the SB as a destination and priority to balance in a session, then it is communicating to us that the SB is impaired in some way and wants support being functional again. The SB juncture is considered an essential general balancing in one of the BodyTalk protocols because it influences a lot of aspects of the body-mind complex. The SBJ can be impaired in many ways, and our body holds the story of all the specific details and any orientation that led it to being compromised. We learn what these details are by the exploring procedure orientation, and details could be out of the orientation box as well. So some contributing factors to an impaired SB could have to do with time, people, a place, an object or objects in our life, types of activities that we do or have experienced, life events, an animal or animals, different plants, belief systems, or the actual physical location about work, money belief systems, and of course emotions. The SB could be compromised from the skull from being compressed for too long during birth. A misalignment of the tailbone can happen from giving birth, and since all bones are linked in the communication system, the SB could be affected from a misaligned tailbone. An impaired SB could have been from when we were young and we got caught with our hand in the cookie jar, scaring us to quickly inhale, or from being startled over and over through the years, slowly limiting the natural movement of the SB. It could have been when we were a small child and felt scared and breathed in quickly, or when friends pulled pranks on us, or we got scared, or when we were driving and were shocked by something and quickly hit the brakes and inhaled quickly. Our mind might have influenced our breath when we saw some shocking post on social media or a text message from our friends, or from holding in a sneeze and not allowing the air out because we think the sneeze is going to be loud to the people around us, or getting the wind knocked out of us playing sports, or excessive coughing through the years, or falling on our tailbone, dancing, or going ice skating or rollerblading, or just walking in the snow and hitting a piece of ice and falling. Rapid, rhythmic, and strained breathing produces a chaotic and disturbed mind. The cause can be diverse and come from our fetal life, past relationships, or something completely outside of the exploring procedure orientation box. The body keeps score of all the details in our life situations and is aware of the exact orientation to guide us to observe and open the SB. It wasn't until BodyTalk that quantum physics was applied to healthcare. Material objects are possibilities of consciousness itself. Consciousness chooses out of the many facets of a possibility wave the one facet that becomes actuality. The choice by consciousness is responsible for the collapse of the wave into a particle. In other words, when something is observed and made aware of, consciousness has a new choice to manifest. Healing is awareness, and possible through observation. We must inform our mind that a higher intelligence exists beyond it. We know that the body can heal itself when supported in a BodyTalk session where the body is given a voice to communicate its priorities. The body is far more sophisticated and capable in communicating to us beyond what the brain and the mind notice. Symptoms for an impaired SBJ could be things like cerebral spinal fluid cannot circulate properly around the brain and the spinal cord, impairing neuron function, brain fog, lack of mental clarity, poor memory, depression, tension, headaches, migraines, and impairment of the senses. Neurons in the peripheral nervous system may be affected, which can impact organ and endocrine function. If the SBJ is compromised, then the function of the pituitary gland will become impaired, and when that happens, hormonal problems can result, such as thinning of hair, slow wound healing, acne, weight gain, just to name a few. Hypothyroidism, digestive disorders, a general feeling of tiredness, difficulty sleeping, heavy menstrual cycles, difficulty regulating body temperature, and so much more. Based on how the SBJ is impaired, we could have poor inhalation, exhalation, or both. Dysfunctional and shallow inhalation can be mirrored from a person's belief systems about not being open to receiving, accepting, or experiencing new things in life. I was drawn into this meme because this kind of expresses this belief system. Christmas is not about giving or receiving gifts. It's all about being equal. So if I don't receive a gift, then I won't be giving a gift. Hint. We are conditioned through social rituals like birthdays and Christmas to give, always just give. Yet giving for giving's sake, in truth, does not a giver make. Just because we may give doesn't mean we're comfortable with the authentic behavior of receiving too. Poor inhalation can lead to a lack of oxygen within the body, which will lead to poor ATP production, which then affects the mitochondria, which then affects the cell and creates higher levels of lactic acid, as well as a general feeling of tiredness and body aches and pains. Over time, this acidosis can lead to cancer. Emotionally, we may begin to feel depressed and lose the spark that we once felt performing at our best. Dysfunctional and shallow exhalation can be mirrored from a person's belief systems about not being able to let go and release the past. Dysfunctional and shallow exhalation can be mirrored from the mind's stories too. In between what we hear, what we think we hear, and what we feel, we tell ourselves a story. These hypothetical stories lead to worry thinking, and worry thinking stops us from breathing consciously and deeply. When we are waiting mentally for an answer for something or someone to respond, we hold our breath. Poor exhalation can lead to respiratory acidosis. CO2 levels build up inside the body, placing additional stress on the kidneys to excrete the acidic buildup. When not breathing in fully, we may develop a defensive personality and be hyperactive, unable to relax, and uptight, with difficulty letting go. Other ways of behaving that manifest are hoarding or being closed to ideas or perspectives from other people, saying, no, that's not it. Having the belief system that I can take all of this on my own, or being a workaholic, or communicating I'm fine. Some people have frequent headaches and migraines for their entire lives, even with all the headache medicine that they've taken over the years. Some have been in car accidents serious enough to cause them to radically and quickly inhale, which then locked the SB into place. And some fender benders might not feel traumatic to us, yet they still feel traumatic to our body on a subtle level. These events cause the body to keep score and record that situation. Often the effect of a locked SB is unnoticeable at first, and symptoms can even occur years later. So someone who might have had a blow to the head playing sports, later on in life they're experiencing depression, thinking it has to do with their body image or themselves, when really it could be this jammed SB not allowing prana and oxygen to flow through the body, and the result feeling tired or lethargic. It's really supportive to differentiate between a self-diagnosis and what actually might be going on behind the scenes in the body. They're not the same thing. Most people who have experienced these scenarios seek numerous chiropractic treatments only to learn that their condition did not change. Frustrated, they are motivated to learn what is going on at a deeper level. BodyTalk gives the body a voice to communicate the exact details and story behind the injury. Communication is then reestablished through the entire body-mind complex, and all of the body's activities are synchronized the way that nature intended. The SB junction, like any other bone connection, needs to have freedom of movement. The technique we implement in a BodyTalk session to help the SB move in its natural rhythm is non-invasive. We ask the body what the priority is. It brings us to the SB, and you place your finger on the roof of your mouth where the hard palate goes soft, and I place my finger on your forehead, focusing on the pituitary endocrine gland that sits in the sella turcica. While you breathe in through your mouth, we're tapping the head, stimulating both hemispheres of the brain. And as you breathe out of your mouth, we're tapping over the heart to store the information, and on the sternum to strengthen the polyvagal nerve. Another option for the body to communicate a hand position during the implementation process is underneath the chin, still focusing on the sphenoid basilar junction, while I place my finger on the forehead, focusing on the pituitary gland. You're still taking exaggerated breaths in and out of the mouth, while we tap on the brain and over the heart complex to non-invasively shift the sphenoid basilar. We are not manipulating or cracking your head or spine. Because BodyTalk is operating on the level of consciousness, we can observe the details of the SB impairment, which changes the mental or vital body blueprint. And since consciousness is the foundation of life and the body-mind complex is structured in a holarchy, nested spheres of body systems, the physical body adheres to whatever shift takes place in the dimension of consciousness, mind, and energy. The Hippocratic Oath is do no harm, and this is a foundation principle of the BodyTalk system. Your body can heal itself, and I will show you how. Give your body the opportunity to have more natural movement with a functional SB junction. Pranayama and functional breathing improves and strengthens the respiratory system. A natural rhythmic SB increases and keeps vitality and energy levels circulating in our Wei Qi, meridians, chakras, and vital body anatomy. Having a functional SB juncture significantly improves people who have suffered from asthma. The SB technique in a BodyTalk session contributes a combination of conscious breathing and deep relaxation that helps us overcome anxiety and panic attacks. Another benefit is being aware of our breathing and body most of the time throughout the day, regardless of what we are doing. Our heartbeats are coherent or consistent when our breathing is naturally rhythmic from a functional SB junction. And when the heart is coherent, the thymus gland that sits in front of the heart is stimulated, restoring the function of waste disposal and supporting the immune system. Another benefit is calming the nervous system and evoking the body's relaxation response, drawing the awareness inward so that we can choose our state of mind rather than be subject to it. Some examples of the relaxation response are slowed brainwave patterns in alpha that are also experienced in sleep and meditation, improved vision, improved sleep and energy, decreased muscle tension, a coherent heart rate, to name a few. By experiencing BodyTalk sessions, we are doing yogic breathing and deconditioning the ways modern society has encouraged shallow breathing. When the SB is functional, the body-mind complex increases and regulates the prana, bringing harmony to this vibration, which produces calm in our mind and thoughts. Pranayama is part of the BodyTalk philosophy, science, and session experience. A result is that the cell's activities are synchronized and communication among the systems are restored. In this picture here on the left, we can see oxygen-deprived blood and confused cell communication. And on the right, we see oxygen-rich blood and clear cell communication. It's improving the sentience of the cell, as to where on the left you can see that they're all kind of confused about what their role is and lumped together. And on the right, you see this individualization of the cell's roles, clearly knowing what to do and where to go. Calm, coherent breathing supports a calm mind. A calm mind contributes the mental space to reflect and create more meaningful decisions that are in alignment with what we truly value and want to express. The benefit of this is we can witness our life consciously instead of succumbing to a mental story like we are victims of circumstance. The SB junction is one of many destinations that our body can guide us to in a session. BodyTalk is an integral system and includes most of the modalities and healing systems that you have heard of, creating a vast spectrum of possibilities for consciousness to choose from, which makes it more likely that the body's needs will be met on all levels.
Give me some direction. Give me some direction.